What is up, Dingleberries? JJ back here from Run Pure Bets, back with another live MLB betting breakdown. I'll go through the games like I often do every Saturday, and then we'll be back again tomorrow doing the same thing with Joey and Holden. But this one, as usual, will be solo. What's up, Vegas Bruce? Thanks, appreciate it. Good luck to you as well. So what do we got? May 16th. Fun slate, a lot more night games than I think we've been used to over the last few Saturdays. Only a few in the afternoon, only one super early game as well. Yesterday, so I dropped the total over Phillies Jays at 10.5. Tough to make of that game for a few different reasons. There 13 walks in the game, so that was kind of as expected. I think another 13 or 14 hits total. What was interesting to me, and something that I'm going to keep a close eye on for that field, is how quickly the weather can change. As of last night and even early afternoon yesterday, the wind was set to blow out at that field about 16, 17 miles an hour, especially to right center. But come game time, that wind made a complete 180, and it was actually blowing in at nearly 20 miles in towards left center. And it definitely knocked down quite a few deep fly balls. Vlad had the only homer, and his ball was just a line drive that got out. But no balls were certainly nothing was carrying out like I had hoped or like I had anticipated based on what I was seeing from the weather report. I'm no weatherman, but ultimately, you just follow the reports. So I felt like I kind of got a little backdoored there, but overall, enough runners on the base pass to do it, but didn't get there. All good. Moves those videos to 9 and 4, plus a little over 4.5 units. So again, nothing to really cry about, but would have been nice to stick that. But ultimately, let's just dive right into this slate. So first game up, which is going to be at 1:00, is the Tampa Bay Rays, New York Mets. Shane McClanahan going up against Drew Smith. Now, Joey Lucchesi is really going to be the starter. They're putting in Smith as an opener, or not as a starter, but he's going to eat. Lucchesi's going to eat most of the innings here. Drew Smith's a bit of what I'll call a variance guy. There's not a lot of data on him. Hasn't pitched much since 2019 in the majors, but could he get a 1 or 2 clean innings? Of course. Look, McClanahan, though, dude's got some really good stuff. And I think we faded him last week. I'm Run Pure's on Sunday. We might have. I don't remember. First 5. I just feel like a first 5 we faded him. But either way, he's got very high K upside. He's got really good stuff. You watch him. He's just not – they've been kind of easing him in 4 or 5 innings here and there. So you'd expect a similar type of game from him. Now, interesting enough with the Mets came into last night winning 7 or 8 straight. Is this now where they start to lose the momentum, right? They're up 2-0 late, give up a few extra runs, and they end up losing the game late. Is this where they kind of, not want to say spiral out of control, but as I often say, baseball is streaky. The Mets were riding high momentum, and, that kind of might have fizzled out yesterday totally. So I know the line may look thick in favor of Tampa, but overall, honestly, I lean the over in this game. So it's 7.5 now. I know that there wasn't a lot of runs scored yesterday, and it's always, iffy when you throw a lefty. When you throw a lefty at the Rays, look, lefty at the Mets is fine because Mets have a ton of good righty sticks, so that's not as big of a deal. And their lineup today is filled with decent righty bats. So I would expect them to be able to get some runs off McClanahan, who again has high K upside, but the Mets don't really strike out either. So there's that to it as well. Lindor's always been better versus righties. Pilar's a good, versus lefties. Pilar's always good versus lefties. Alonso, McCann, Villar. These guys are all good versus lefty sticks. The Rays are, of course, Jekyll and Hyde versus lefties, but Lucchesi puts way too many guys on, freely in terms of walks. And again, Drew Smith's a complete variable to this. He could pitch a clean inning, but if you can squeeze a run out of him early. So overall, call it a slight lean. I'll have stronger leans for you in this video, but and of course, the best bet, but call that a slight lean in favor of the over at 7.5. I do think it's a little short. Okay, so next game is Minnesota Twins, Oakland Athletics. Okay, so this is interesting, right? Because the Twins are not playing good baseball at all. And I think that there are certain times where you watch the Twins and you're like, okay, this is the team that I expected them to be, right? This is the team that's been that's hitting the way I expected them to hit, and obviously pitching is always going to be the problem. But pitching, it's kind of like they just can't get things right. Like when they pitch poorly, they're also hitting. When they pitch poorly, they're getting a lot of runs, and when they hit poorly, is when they're games where they're pitching good and they're losing they're basically losing a lot of close games. And they're losing, of course, bad games. Look, when you're 12 and 24, you're losing more than just close games. But they've lost one of their last 9 or 10 games. And their only win was against the Tigers. They just get swept by the White Sox. They almost got swept by the Rangers. This team's not playing very confident baseball right now. However, there's a lot of things that trend in the right direction for this Twins team relative to this start. Now, I personally can't back a team that's not winning. And I'm certainly not going to lay, that's not completely accurate, but I'm not going to lay $140 with a team that's not winning. But with that said, there's enough that scares me off here to not like Oakland in this spot. So first of all, when are the Twins going to find their stride, right? At what point do they find their stride? I think it makes sense that they're going to find their stride behind one of their best pitchers, right? That one of their best pitchers is going to have to be home, right? And I'm not sure about the weather. And so Berrios, to me, reminds me a lot of Luis Castillo. Okay, the guy loves to pitch at home, loves to pitch in warmer weather. And I don't care like what he may say in interviews or press conferences. I mean, you just got to trust the numbers, right? The numbers tell you that Luis Castillo and Jose Berrios both love pitching at home, and they both love pitching in warm weather. When it's the exact opposite for them, they tend to really struggle. So today's going to be 70 degrees, only slight wind blowing out. He's home. You'd expect Berrios to throw well in this start. Now, will it happen? Who knows specifically. But you'd expect him to throw well in this start. And you'd also expect the Twins' bats to hit well in this start. So for me, if you're looking for a lean, I wouldn't bet them to win the game because I think their bullpen's been super shaky. But it would be a stronger lean than the first game in terms of the over. I'd lay the half from Minnesota first 5 personally because, again, I know that they haven't been winning, and I don't like to ever back teams that aren't winning. But again, there's a lot of schematics here that make this line make a lot of sense. I think that how the Twins are playing is melted into this line. I think that's why it's 140. And I think that if the Twins were playing what I'd consider neutral baseball, where they're winning and losing, I would think this line would be about $1.80. So the fact that it's 140 to me shows you how the market currently thinks of the Twins, and I get it. It makes sense, right? The Twins aren't playing good baseball, but again, you're trying to pick a spot when they're going to play right. They're going to play right behind their ace. They're going to play right at home. They're going to play right when their righty-heavy lineup goes up against an average at best lefty. So a lot of things pointing in the right direction for the Twins here. Call it a lean, first 5, lay the half run Twins. You should be able to get that at Slate Dog money too, plus 100, whatever. Okay, so next game. What do we got here? Okay, Angels Red Sox. If you've come to this show early, this is going to be my best bet. And it's for a few different reasons. So first of all, before I even give you the play, betting on or against the Red Sox has not been very profitable for me this season. Contrary to that, betting on or against the Detroit Tigers has been extremely profitable for me. Now, granted, I've backed the Tigers more than I faded them, but they're just a team that I've been getting right this season. The Red Sox are a team that I have not been getting right this season. But I don't want to completely jump off the bandwagon. I still have to trust numbers when I see them. And I really like the Angels in this spot. So seeing currently 112 at FanDuel, that's going to be my best bet. I'll type it in for you, and then I'll talk about it. Angels money line minus 112. That's at FanDuel right now. There might be a better price currently in the market, but it's hard for me to kind of leverage all the markets while I'm doing this video. But I know for a fact right before I started this video, Angels were 112 at FanDuel. So a few different reasons here. Now I know that the Red Sox lineup is already out, right? And it's a near opening day lineup. And actually the Angels lineup just popped out as well. And I would consider this Angels lineup against a left-hander. You might think this is silly. I think this is one of the best lineups in all of baseball versus left-handed pitching. You look up and down this lineup. I mean, where are you finding easy outs? Taylor Ward has been swinging the stick really well. They have him at the top. And then, Ohtani, of course, he's up from the left side, but MVP candidate, right? Trout, Rendon, Iglesias, Gosselin, Upton, Kurt Suzuki, who's always a tough out. And then David Fletcher, who's hasn't exactly had the year he was supposed to have, but this is supposed to be their leadoff hitter, right? And he's hitting 9th. This is a really tough lineup, especially versus left-handed pitching. And Martin Perez has been good, but certainly not great by any means, and certainly struggles with right-handed bats, and he's going to see an awful lot of them today. I think that in normal circumstances, because the Angels haven't been playing that well in general, because the Angels have been dealing with some injuries throughout the year, Rendon's been out a lot. Tani's, they kind of hit and miss because, he pitches as well. Trout missed a few games, I believe, as well. Anyway, so I think that the numbers surface level aren't really accurate. Like the Twins aren't as bad as their 16-21 record. Contrary to that, the Red Sox are not as good as their 24-16 record. I do think that's why the Angels are just a pick 'em here. And I think that the Angels should be actually close to minus 130 in this spot. So for me, I'd love to get the 18, 20 cents in our favor. I'd argue this should be even bigger than 130. So Dylan Bundy is a guy that you look at his surface, right? 0-4, ERA 5+. I mean, he's been much better than this, though. I don't want to use the word unlucky per se, but he's been much better than his surface. I mean, just look up and down his advanced stuff, his Sierra, his XFIP, all this stuff's in the threes, low threes. And the interesting thing with the Red Sox, so you might find this silly. The Red Sox are not hitting. And I know you might look at the last few games. They score 8 runs against the Athletics, and they win yesterday against the Angels. Against right-handed pitching, this team is not hitting the baseball. So they were fortunate enough to play Sean Manaea a few games ago, and Manaea served them up a few meatballs from the left side. And of course, the Red Sox have a lot of potent right-handed bats. And they got a few out. Bogarts hit one out. I even think Devers might have hit one out. And then I think some guy from the bottom of the lineup hit one out. But either way, versus right-handed pitching, this team has really been struggling recently. They're not really seeing the ball that well. Yesterday they hit a few home runs. I think Renfroe got one out, and I think Dahlbeck at the bottom of the lineup hits one out. So they had two-run homers. But again, this team as a whole is really not hitting, and they're not doing well runners in scoring position. Again, they were gifted runs, what I would consider gifted runs against a left-handed pitcher that wasn't on his game in Manaea a few games back. But other than that, look at this. I mean, 1 run, 2 runs, 1 run, and then 4 runs yesterday, a few home run balls. So look, if Dylan Bundy can limit the home runs today, to me, I think the Angels are going to have multiple opportunities to grab runs against Martin Perez. There's also the angle to this, and I get it. The Angels bullpen's not very good, right? I mean, average, maybe below average, right? But Red Sox bullpen's not good either. And the Red Sox bullpen used their best arms yesterday. Now they might double them up today and use them again, but I'm not going to make that assumption. They did use their 3 best bullpen arms yesterday to close out this win at 4-3. The Angels have their best bullpen arms ready to go today without issue. So if the Angels have a lead, I do like them to be able to hold it, or at least be able to not give up too much where that becomes an issue late where you're sweating it. But again, for me, it's a pure value spot. I know it's you talk about a favorite and how can be value on a favorite, but it's all numbers. And for me, I capped this game much higher than that, than the current number, and I really like the Angels in this spot. So again, Angels minus 112 currently at FanDuel. That's going to be my best bet from the video. That does not mean you have to stop watching. I'll give you breakdowns on all these games and what I think of them. Call my strongest leans for each game. I'll take a quick peek at the chat. So what's up, Ricky, Bogey, Nathan, IC, B-Rad, my guy, and Kago. What's up, guys? Thanks for hanging out. So next game up is Detroit Tigers, Chicago Cubs. So if you've watched these videos enough, I'm usually bullish on the Tigers, and it has nothing to do with me liking them or me being a homer to the Tigers. It's all about market value. So the market overall throughout this season has been very low on the Tigers, and that's kind of why I've found some value with them throughout the season so far. But contrary to that, this is a bad spot for the Detroit Tigers. Trevor Williams, I get it. His surface numbers are bad. His advanced numbers are bad. But the Detroit Tigers are at the end of their playing well stretch. We saw them roll their hot sticks into KC and almost lose all 3 games. So, we know we liked them. I know I bet them on the solo play versus the Royals, and they squeaked it out right after being up 7-0 deep into the 8th inning. And they somehow still squeaked it out despite giving up 7 runs in the 8th and 9th inning. Then another close game with the Royals again, and then another close game again with the Royals. They finally lose a close game against the Cubs. And I feel like from a morale perspective, this team now is destined to go on a bit of a skid. And that's not saying much, right? The Tigers aren't a great team to begin with. But now I think, much like I said, the market's been down on the Tigers. I think the recent sweep of the Royals, I think has the market kind of swinging a bit. Now they and I say the market, like the whole betting market as a whole in terms of how numbers are moving. This is normally a spot where the Cubs would be a much larger favorite. And the reason this is they're lower is because the Tigers just played well against KC. But I like the Cubs today. You could either, I'm just trying to see what the current line is. Is it about $1.30? Yeah, so it's $1.35. I mean, I don't really like laying that type of vig in general for full games, but that would be my lean. Cubs money line to win today. I'm not a big Jose Urena guy. I know his surface numbers look good or look okay. I know his win losses aren't there, but to me, the Tigers are bound to go on a bit of a skid here, and I think that the Cubs can take advantage of it. Cubs haven't been great by any means, so it's tough to want to lay $1.35 with the Cubs on the road. But again, I've been a Tigers truther this year with certain aspects in terms of I've played a lot of their team totals over because the way the totals work and the way that they're usually big dogs, their team totals are usually very low. So, but this is a spot where I just think that the Cubs can really step on this team's throat today and even tomorrow. But at this number, to me, it's a little too short. So I lean the Cubs as a favorite. And again, if you guys watch these videos enough, I often like dogs, especially, that's where not where always value is, but that's where value often happens to be. But today, at least in these early games, I definitely see value with some of the favorites, not Tampa Bay specifically, but definitely see some value with some of these early favorites. Okay, next up, Pirates, Giants. So Tyler Anderson, Johnny Cueto. I'll be honest, I really want no part of this game in any facet. So to tell you why I don't want any part of it, for me, this line is completely fair down the middle, -115. It's kind of where I cap it as well. Pirates should be a small dog in this spot, not what they opened at. And total 7.5 is a fair number for this park, for these bats. Now, San Francisco, of course, has been better versus left-handed pitching. So you kind of weigh that in. And Johnny Cueto has been good, but we still kind of know the real Johnny Cueto, right? And the total to me is fair, 7.5. So I'm not going to waste your time on this game anymore. I'm not going to have any play here. Okay, so next game up. Orioles, Yankees. So Jorge Lopez, Domingo Germán. Yankees, -145, total 8.5. I mean, I'm just not a Domingo Germán guy. I think I say this every week. He had a good year a few years back, or was it last year, the year before his suspension. But I'm just not a Domingo Germán guy. I don't think he's as good as his numbers show. And he battles often in games. He tends to have issues with walks. But they're playing the Orioles here, right? And the Orioles aren't very good by any means, and they're much worse than their 16-22 record says. And the Yankees are much better than their 21-17 record says. So maybe some slight value in favor of the Yankees at the current number at 145. But I don't love that by any means because, again, I'm not a Germán guy. So this will likely be an off spot for me. And the Baltimore is in the middle of a little 3-game skid themselves. So, yeah, I don't love any part about this game. Total 8.5 is a fair number for me. So, overall, another spot that I'm just going to be off. Okay, so Brewers, Braves, Brett Anderson, Ian Anderson. Talk about regression en route. Brett Anderson, woof. I mean, you can't really chase regression betting this sport because you're just going to bury yourself. But with that said, I mean, the Brewers are not playing good baseball at all. And I get it. They're dealing with injuries. Yelich has been out for what feels like forever. But look at their last 12, 15 games. I mean, they have 3 wins over their last 12 games. They got swept in a 4-game series by the Phillies. They win 2 games against the Marlins, but what does that really mean? They steal 1 from the Cardinals, but then lose again yesterday. It's just not a confident baseball team right now. And it's very tough to want to back a team that's not playing confident baseball. I don't think we have lineups yet for these guys, right? No, this is a 7:00 game. We're not going to have lineups. But the Braves have so many good right-handed sticks. My issue with this game and overall, why I lean the over is because I don't think Ian Anderson is the same pitcher he was last year. I know his surface numbers look okay, but he has not looked the same. You watch him pitch, he's constantly in jams. Now, granted, he gets a little bit of a gift here with the Brewers because they're not hitting very well or seeing the ball very well. But again, at 8, to me, if I punch the Braves in for a few runs, I have to punch the Brewers in for a few runs because, again, I haven't loved what I've seen from Ian Anderson. So overall, call it a very, very small lean, but lean the over at 8 runs. Take a quick peek at the chat. Yago, Joe, B-Rad, Jack, Jersey. So you guys, you see the Vikings here. The reason why I went back to the Vikings was last week on the live video. I had the same get up on, and we did well, right? A lot of the plays, I don't ever recap the leans, even when they do good. I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, if you followed all my leans, you probably hit like 20 bets. That's not my style. But last week was a good show. So I just going back, not being superstitious, not my style, but I went back to the same apparel if you will, with the Vikes. So yeah, if you're watching this video, I think it's a baseball video. And what are you doing wearing Vikings clothes, you idiot? It's all called a little superstitious. Okay, so next game up, we have. Sorry, I'm kind of all out of sorts. White Sox Royals, Carlos Rodon, Mike Minor. Now, if you guys have followed me, you'll know that I've wanted no part of the Royals over the recent stretch. They've been playing very poor baseball. And for those that bet baseball, I mean, this is not the sport to be bucking streaks. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't sports where it makes sense value-wise to start bucking streaks. I'm not saying that. In this sport in particular, you're absolutely out of your mind if you're bucking streaks. This team's won 8 in a row. They're due for a win. They're due for a loss. This team's won 9 in a row. They're due for a loss or whatever. I'm not saying to blindly tail streaks, but you certainly shouldn't be blindly fading streaks. Okay, that's just ridiculous. This is a sport where there are multiple players in a given time that are seeing the ball well. There are multiple pitchers that are throwing the ball well, that are in rhythm. You see it all the time. Why would you think bucking streaks in this sport is going to be successful for you? It never is. Now, again, you still have to try to find value where you can and such, but tail streaks, don't ever fade them. Plus, you only lose one game doing it, right? I mean, if you're somebody who's going to sit there and consistently fade a team that's winning, or you're going to consistently back a team that's been losing, you're going to keep losing with them if they keep losing. You're going to keep winning, fading them, whatever. But versus the alternative where you're only going to have one loss or one win either way. I hope you guys can understand that. Okay, so more on this game. So Rodon and Minor, two lefties. Look, at a surface level, this game's not hard to handicap, right? White Sox are playing good baseball. Royals aren't. Royals tend to struggle with left-handed pitching. The White Sox do not struggle with left-handed pitching. But woof, this is all melted into this line. It's a heavy line for me. And again, this goes back to the whole tailing, and I get it. So my big concern here, the Royals showed various parts of life in the Tigers series where you thought they might pop, right? Now they in a doubleheader yesterday, they lose the second game, but they've shown some good tendencies that their sticks are close, very close to waking up. The problem is this is a very good pitcher they're seeing in Rodon. Now, Rodon is as good as he is. He's not nearly as good as his ERA shows. His surface numbers are in the 2s. So he's still elite or been elite, but he's not as good as these numbers look. That's for sure. And Mike Minor on the other end is not as bad as these numbers look. But again, it's all melted into this number. That's why the White Sox are a big favorite. I don't want to step in front of the White Sox versus an average left-handed pitcher. So this will be a stay away spot for me. But at 180, I mean, you couldn't pay me to want to bet the White Sox. That line is too inflated. All things considered, it's a market. Again, you're paying when a team is playing well and they're going up against a team that's not playing well. You're going to pay an inherent tax to bet them. That's very much so the case here. White Sox could win, but again, the line is a bit egregious. And the total at 8. To me, you're going to bet the total here. You're probably just better off, assuming you like the White Sox. A lot of people I'm sure do today. Just bet the White Sox team total over in that case. To me, if the Royals are going to hit today, they're going to win this game. It's that simple. I know it sounds cliche, but I do believe that if this is a 5-4 type of game, I think it'll be in favor. I think the Royals are going to win the game if it's 5-4. If the Royals are not going to hit at all, they're going to continue what they've been doing. The White Sox will likely win this game. Whatever it is, 5-1, 5-2, whatever. But if this is close, I do like the Royals, who are starting to show a little more confidence. Okay, so next bet up, or next game up, Astros Rangers. Now, this game for me is very similar to the White Sox Royals. Luis Garcia, the sample's small, but he's been decent. Dane Dunning, I've talked this guy up a bit on these shows. He's good. His service number's good. His advanced stuff's good. The problem, though, he is walking into an Astros team that is really, really clicking. And I know that they almost lost the day before, or when it was 4-3, and they were actually down 3 runs, I think, and they came back and won. This team is clicking. This is not a team you want to step in front of right now. I don't care what the value is or what you consider value. This is not a team worth stepping in front of right now when they're hitting and they're playing confident baseball. And the Rangers are not playing confident baseball. Now, the Rangers aren't a good team, so you'd expect that. But a team like the Rangers will still show bright spots throughout a season. But right now, they're in the middle of a bit of a skid. So I think personally, even at 160, I know it's a fat line. I'd likely just lay the half run with Houston as a lean. And again, that's primarily because you got one team, you got 2 teams going in 2 opposite directions right now. Could the anomaly happen today? And I don't think it's melted enough into this line. So much like the White Sox, where I think I'm very confident that the way the White Sox are playing, the way the Royals are playing, that's melted into the line. This case, Houston should be 180. They're 160. And that impacts, of course, the first 5 line, which could let you get like a Houston first 5 at about $1.10, $1.15. So yeah, call it my lean. Houston, lay the half run first 5. Phillies Jays. So obviously we lost this game yesterday. If you look at the box score, you might have thought it wasn't even close, and throughout the game played, it wasn't close. But I always say when you bet overs or unders, it's all about you're more or less handicapping scoring opportunities. You're not so much handicapping runs to be scored. Sure, at a surface level, somebody could tell you, I knew there was going to be 15 runs in this game, but no one knows that. You're handicapping run opportunities. We had 2 pitchers who have severely egregious walk rates, and we have 2 pitchers who have severely egregious home run to fly ball rates. The wind blowing in was a bit of an issue for me yesterday, personally, to watch and see the weather change, which of course impacted those home run to fly ball rates. The walks were still there, though. Again, 13 free passes in that game. Now, we're not even talking hits, just walks. Bullpens were below average at best. But here's a little bit of a different spot, right? Aaron Nola's good. Anthony Kay's been bad, but I mean, to me, he's not nearly as bad as that ERA says. But it's very difficult for me to enjoy betting at this park with what I saw happen yesterday. So again, another day where it's 80 degree weather. Wind right now is saying it's blowing out 14 miles to right center. But it was saying this yesterday in Dunedin Dunedin, and it didn't. The wind went a complete 180, and it was knocking down deep fly balls, which impacts the total, right? So I know that the Blue Jays probably won't be playing too many more games here. Maybe they'll be able to move back to Canada soon. But with that said, that was a bit of a bummer for me with the way the weather works in that area. Aaron Nola's been good, but we know the Jays are hitting. The Jays did struggle a bit yesterday, but I mean, there was like there's like 2 or 3 different double plays. There was definitely at least 3 or 4 for both teams combined. So runners were on the base paths, just a lot of guys left on base. Could that happen again today? Again, I liked what I saw from the Philly sticks yesterday. I thought they were patient. Again, no balls left this yard, which this park can be a home run frenzy at times. So to me, now it's 9.5. I mean, it's tough for me not to like the over here again, but I don't like the idea that the wind can change in this park on a whim. So to me, it'll be a stay off spot. And I'll be honest, the Phillies have no business being $140 against the Jays in their current state. I get it. You throw a lefty at Philly who just got Real Muto back, and there's a lot of good righty sticks on this team. Anthony Kay's not very good. But man, this Blue Jays team, if they're at home and they're this big a dog, to me, it's almost borderline auto bet. So call it a strong lean, taking the 130 with the Jays. Because with the way they're hitting, I know that yesterday didn't pan out, but yesterday was a weird game. A lot of guys left on base. So I like the Jays getting at plus 130 here. Again, call that another lean. Okay, so next game up. Rockies Reds. Chacin versus Malley. Mally's been excellent. He has been excellent. My concern here is, and Chacin certainly hasn't been great by any means. Long time guy though. Both these teams are hitting, so call that what you will. In Coors Field, we know what that field can do. I know Malley may scare some people off, but I'll be honest, the Reds have no business being $180 in this game. The Rockies have been hitting well. Now the Reds could obviously win, and the Reds will likely do some decent work off Chacin. And if Mailey's hitting his spots, he's going to probably pile up strikeouts in this spot as well. But look, the Reds have no business being 180 on the road at this field with the way the Rockies are hitting the baseball. So this wouldn't be a big spot for me though by any means, because I don't like fading Mailey often. I don't like fading Mailey against bad teams. I don't mind fading Mailey against good teams, but Rockies are hitting. They're home. It's a big number. You can maybe grab a half run first 5 if you want. But that'll be just a slight lean for me, Rockies first 5. Okay, so next game up. Diamondbacks Nationals. So Seth Frankoff, Joe Ross. Not a lot of data on Frankoff. He's only pitched like a few innings. Maybe he goes 3 innings for the first time in this start, but he hasn't been great. I guess they're calling him a starting pitcher, but he doesn't go more than an inning or 2. So likely to be somewhat seemingly of a bullpen day of sorts. I know that he threw 51 pitches his last start, but he wasn't good. So maybe he goes a little deeper here. He should, but and Joe Ross. Joe Ross is tough of what to make of Joe Ross, because we know what he was last year, which was a borderline gas can, and this year he's been a little better, but his advanced stuff doesn't really back him either. The Nationals had a huge win yesterday, and I don't usually like going back to a team or betting a team right after. They have 17 runs yesterday. 17 runs. So sometimes as a team in baseball, you click in certain games, and the Nationals definitely clicked yesterday. But you can't expect that to happen again by any means. The problem is Diamondbacks lost 3 in a row, and not a great starter here going for them. But all things considered, the Nationals in this spot should not be $1.20. I have this game as a complete coin flip. So at $1.20, I guess you got 10 cents of value on the Diamondbacks if you're feeling in that mood. But yeah, again, another slight lean Diamondbacks plus the 110. Okay. Next game, Cardinals, Padres. So Chris Paddock, Adam Wainwright. Okay, so Paddock's another one, right? When do you want to back Chris Paddock? You want to back Chris Paddock when he's home, and you want to back Chris Paddock when he's throwing in warm weather. Now, it's often that when he's pitching at home, he's going to be throwing in warm weather, but it would only be about 60 degrees tonight, so I wouldn't consider tonight super warm. Wainwright's been really good. His advanced stuff's really good. Just a veteran pitcher who's kind of figured himself out after a bad year or two where he became a gas can. He's seemingly kind of figured himself out with better location and pitch selection. He's been good. I think overall, I know this number's low, but I do lean the first 5 under. Adam Wainwright has been a first 5 under machine in his starts in terms of not giving up many runs. And the Padres, not that they're in a bad stretch by any means, but they're a young team, and they haven't exactly been smashing the seams off the ball. They go into Coors Field, and they're not able to – they have the one good game in Coors, but, ultimately what they scored, like 14 total runs in 3 games. To me, that's not excellent, 15 total runs in 3 games at that field. That's not – with this lineup, to me, that's not excellent by any means. And then they kind of struggled a bit with their sticks against the Giants in some of the games and the Pirates. Like, overall, this team is not, like, hitting all that good. Now, the Cardinals, on their side of things, very similar to the Padres in that respect, right? They've been playing really well. Their records are very similar on these two teams, so you would expect them to be playing well. But again, another team that's got good bats, but not exactly swinging the sticks all that great. Averaging about 3 runs or 2 runs over the last 3 or 4 games, maybe even less if you spread that out to 5 games. So I lean the first 5 under here. You could probably get it at 4. Play a little extra big at 4. So that's my lean. I like the under in that one. Mariners, Indians, Justice Sheffield, Tristan McKenzie. It is so. Seattle was playing very bad baseball coming into yesterday, and they were able to squeak out a win against Cleveland. Tristan McKenzie is by no means a good pitcher. He's threw. Am I thinking of his last start where he threw really well? Was it his last start or the start before? I'm just trying to think here. So it was his last start against KC where he threw well. So he's likely due for a little bit of regression in this start. The issue for me is that Seattle hasn't been hitting. I know that yesterday they kind of found some life with the sticks, and and obviously played well. But before that, they weren't hitting at all. They had lost 5 straight. So maybe they parlay that into tonight and hit well again against a worse pitcher. They saw Savali yesterday. Now they see McKenzie. So maybe Mariners get a little confidence here. That's ultimately why I want to stay away from this game. I want to bet the Indians at this small number at 105, but the Seattle's found some life, and people like Sheffield for whatever reason. I'm not a Sheffield guy, but Indians also struggle against lefties, and Sheffield comes from that side. So overall, it's a stay off spot for me. Okay, was this last but not least? Last but not least, Dodgers Marlins. Now I don't see who's starting currently. They may be updated. I don't see anybody who's starting for the Marlins. Still undecided, yet the line's 305. Let me just see. Anybody in the chat, if anybody has an idea who's going for the Marlins today, I don't. I know it's Bauer on the other side, but it's very hard for me to kind of dictate where value is or isn't if I don't know who's pitching. Ultimately, that'll be a stay away spot for me, at least for this, as far as this video goes. And I would never like 300 with the Dodgers anyway, so that's out of the question for me. So glad your partner in crime, Mr. Bean, is on there. Leroy, what would you take on the Detroit game? Lean Cubs, Leroy. I broke that down a little bit earlier in the video. But okay, so that wraps up the video, guys. I hope you found the video informative. I gave you a bunch of what I consider good looks for a bunch of games. And of course, my best bet, the Angels 112 versus the Red Sox. I think that price is very well short, all things considered. So we will be back tomorrow with more baseball content with Joey and Holden. Good luck with all your bets today. Wish you the best luck. Wish you the best luck in the Preakness as well, if you're firing there. I don't have anything I like in the Preakness. Felt like I got a little snubbed in the first race anyway. I know I usually give you some stuff in the Preakness, but it's not going to be a bet I bet today. Not going to be a horse race I bet today. But other than that, thank you everybody for joining in. Be sure to gamble responsibly. More content today from us. NBA stuff from Spread, UFC stuff from Kegger. Head over to Run Pure Bets. Check us out. See what we do. And overall, thanks again for watching, guys. Gamble responsibly.